When you go quiet, it's not heartbreak she feels first, it's interruption, a break in the pattern, a sudden confusing pause where she expected your presence. Your attention was always there in the background, like breathing, she never had to earn it, showed up, like clockwork, consistent, steady, reassuring. And even if she never said it, she built her emotional rhythm around it. You were the safety net, the fallback, the one who recalibrated whenever she pulled back. You didn't just send messages, you were a presence she didn't question. Then, all at once, that presence is gone. Quietly, no warnings, no timeout, just stillness. And it doesn't register as pain yet, not even as loss. It registers as confusion. Not because you were her everything, but because you were always there. People don't panic when a habit breaks, not immediately. First, they assume it's a fluke. You just caught up, right? Just tired? Just thinking? She tells herself you'll text tomorrow, that you're giving her space, that you're probably working through something, and her belief in your consistency buys her comfort for a moment. That pause, those few hours, maybe a couple days, feels manageable. But the longer silence holds, the less sense it makes. The pattern she never acknowledged is suddenly broken, and she can't fix it. And here's the part that stings: she's not missing you yet. Not deeply, not emotionally. She's just thrown off. She doesn't know where she stands because you're not giving her anything to measure. No response, no reaction, no rhythm to sync to. So now she's not longing, she's unsettled. And unsettled is louder than sadness. Confusion forces the mind to search for meaning. She doesn't understand why you stopped. Why you didn't chase like before. Why you didn't ask what was wrong. She thought that's who you were. Predictable, available, unmoving, even when she hesitated, even when she paused, even when she showed half investment, you still chased. There was the silent agreement, wasn't it? She moves slow, and you adjust. She leans back, and you lean forward every time. Now you've pulled away, and the dance is broken, and she's not reaching just yet, but she's looking. The emotional gravity, the fallback certainty, and without it, things feel oddly still, but not peaceful, off. The silence grows not louder, but heavier, not painful, but pronounced. Her mind doesn't scream. It stirs. The space you left isn't begging to be filled, it's demanding to be understood. The rhythm is gone, and with it, what she never thought twice about, the quiet security of you always being there. What follows confusion isn't sadness, it's disorientation. She's not crying into her pillow, she's not writing journal entries, she's just, oh, something feels misaligned, but she can't name it. The emotional dashboard she used to navigate you has gone dark. No notifications, no signals, no data. She's used to reading your energy, adjusting to your tone, measuring your interest through response times and message lengths. Now there's nothing to measure, nothing to interpret, nothing to react to. You're not giving her anything to work with, and that's the part that quietly destabilizes her. She was the one who set the pace before. She pulled back, you leaned in, she went quiet, you checked in, she delayed, you waited. The whole dynamic moved around her rhythm. Now suddenly you're not following the beat, you're not adjusting, you're not compensating. And without that, she loses her footing. Control doesn't disappear loudly, it slips away in silence. This is where curiosity creeps in, not romantic curiosity. Strategic curiosity. She starts asking herself questions she didn't expect. Why didn't he double text? Why didn't he ask what's wrong? Why didn't he fight for clarity? These aren't longing thoughts. They're confusion dressed as questions. She's not wondering if she misses you. She's wondering why you didn't perform on cue. And that wondering reveals something uncomfortable. She expected your behavior to stay fixed no matter how hers shifted. She assumed pursuit was a permanent setting, not a response to investment, not a reflection of reciprocity. Just something you did, like breathing, like habit, like instinct. Your silence challenges that assumption without saying a word, and challenged assumptions don't fight back. They sit heavy in the chest. Now she replays recent interactions, not with nostalgia, with analysis. She's scanning for signs she missed. You moments where your energy shifted, moments where your words were fewer, moments where you didn't push like you used to. Back then she ignored them. They felt small, unimportant. Now they feel like clues she should have caught. Her mind keeps circling back to one thought. Something changed, and she didn't notice when it started. That realization stings quietly, not because she wants you back, but because it means she wasn't paying attention when it mattered. She was comfortable, maybe too comfortable, and comfort made her careless. The emotional loop that once kept her grounded is now wide open. There's no reassurance coming, no warmth filling the gaps, no familiar presence smoothing over the rough edges. She's sitting with herself now, and sitting with yourself when you're used to external validation isn't peaceful. It's confronting. She doesn't label this as loss, not yet. But she feels the absence in strange places, in the quiet mornings, in the gaps between tasks, in the moments where her phone stays silent and her chest tightens slightly, not dramatically. Just enough to notice, just enough to wonder. And wondering is the beginning of something she wasn't ready to face. The silence doesn't lift, it settles. And now she's starting to feel the weight of the space you left behind, not because it's loud, because it's empty, persistently empty. She keeps waiting for the noise to return, for you to ping her, for normalcy to restore itself. But days pass and nothing comes. No explanation, no check-in, no attempt to smooth things over. Just continued quiet, and quiet has a way of amplifying what's missing. She begins replaying moments differently now. Not the big ones, the small ones, the smart, the times you showed up without being asked, the times you adjusted your schedule to match hers, the times you absorbed her uncertainty and didn't make it a problem. Back then, those moments didn't stand out. They were just what you did. Now they're glaring in their absence. She took them for granted. She didn't label them as effort. She labeled them as normal, as expected, as your role. Your attention wasn't a gift, it was the baseline, and baselines don't get appreciation. They get assumed until they're gone. Then suddenly they're everywhere, in every pause, in every unanswered thought, in every moment where she instinctively reaches for something that isn't there anymore. The reflex is still active, but the response is dead. And that disconnect feels heavier than she wants to admit. Words could have been debated, explained away, softened with tone. But silence gives her nothing to push against, nothing to rationalize, nothing to manage or reframe. It just sits there, unmoving, uncompromising. She can't twist it into something softer, can't convince herself it means something other than what it is. You're not engaging, you're not participating, you're not available. And availability was the one thing she never thought she'd lose. Now her mind starts writing stories to fill the gap. Maybe you're upset, maybe you're testing her, maybe you're waiting for her to reach out first. These narratives give her temporary relief. They let her believe the dynamic is still salvageable, still within her influence. But the longer you stay silent, the weaker those stories become. Because silence doesn't behave like a test, it behaves like a decision. She's not panicking yet, but she's no longer comfortable either. There's a low hum of unease sitting just beneath the surface, not dramatic enough to act on, just present enough to distract. She finds herself checking her phone more often, not desperately, just habitually. The way you check for something you know isn't coming but can't stop anticipating. Hope mixed with doubt, expectation laced with confusion. What unsettles her most isn't the idea that you're gone, it's the idea that you're fine, that you're moving through your days unbothered, unaffected, not waiting on her like she unconsciously expected. That possibility introduces a new feeling, not jealousy, not longing, something closer to irrelevance. And irrelevance doesn't hurt the way rejection does. It sits quieter, colder, more permanent. Because if you're okay without her, then maybe her role wasn't as essential as she thought. Your silence is no longer background noise. It's starting to feel intentional. She can sense it now. This isn't you being busy. This isn't you pulling back temporarily. This is you choosing distance. And choice changes everything. When someone drifts, you can pull them back. When someone chooses, you can't. Choice has weight, it has direction, and she's beginning to feel that direction moving away from her. What bothers her isn't that you disappeared, it's that you redirected. You didn't collapse emotionally, you didn't lash out, you didn't demand answers or explanations. You just stopped organizing your world around her responses, and that shift is visible even in the absence. She can feel that your energy isn't hovering anymore, isn't waiting, isn't hoping. You've moved it somewhere else, somewhere she doesn't have access to. She doesn't miss you yet. Not in the way people romanticize missing someone. She misses the version of herself that felt stable when you were present. Because your attention did something she never acknowledged. It grounded her. When things felt uncertain elsewhere, you were the constant. When her mood dipped, your presence leveled it. You absorbed the static, smoothed the edges, made space when clarity was missing, and she never had to ask for it. It was just there. Now that stabilizer is gone, and without it, internal tension rises. Small anxieties she used to offload onto you now sit with her fully. Doubts she used to silence with your reassurance now echo louder. She's feeling the full weight of her own emotional weather, and it's heavier than she expected, not unbearable, just noticeably harder. And that difficulty makes her aware of how much you were holding without ever making it obvious. She starts revisiting your behavior with different eyes, your patience, your consistency. The way you never flinched when she was unclear, the way you didn't demand certainty or timelines. Those qualities didn't seem special when they were active, they seemed like who you were. Basic, standard. Now she's noticing them because they're rare, dependent on her performing interests in real time. Yours didn't, it just existed, steady, unhurried, present without being invasive, and she realizes now she may have mistaken that steadiness for weakness, for availability she could take her time with, for interest that would wait indefinitely while she figured herself out. Your silence is proving that assumption wrong, quietly, firmly, without a single word of correction. This is when the story she told herself starts cracking, the one where your interest was endless, where she had all time in the world, where her hesitation didn't cost anything, because you'd still be there whenever she decided to show up fully. That story only worked because you kept reinforcing it. You kept showing up, kept engaging, kept making room. The moment you stopped, the story lost its foundation. And now it's crumbling without anything to hold it up. With no new information coming from you, her mind starts looping, not obsessively, just persistently. She's replaying old conversations, rereading old messages, reviewing moments she barely paid attention to the first time. And now those moments feel different, heavier, more revealing. She's not looking for proof that you cared. She's looking for clues she missed, signs that this was coming. Warnings she ignored because everything felt secure. She's finding them. Small shifts in your energy she brushed past. Times you didn't push when you normally would have. Moments where your response was shorter, less enthusiastic, less available. Back then, she didn't register them as significant. You were always there the next day anyway. Always back to normal, so she assumed those dips didn't mean anything. Now she's wondering if they meant everything. What's settling in now isn't sadness. It's something closer to accountability. Not guilt in the dramatic sense. Just a quiet recognition that she may have leaned too hard on your consistency. That she delayed effort because she believed your interest was guaranteed. That she tested boundaries she didn't even realize were there. And those tests didn't feel risky at the time because you never reacted harshly, never withdrew suddenly, never made her feel the consequences of taking you for granted until now. And they didn't arrive through confrontation, they arrived through absence. You didn't lecture her, didn't list her mistakes, didn't explain why you pulled back. You just stopped participating in the imbalance, and that silence communicates something no conversation ever could. It says your attention was always a choice, not a reflex, not an obligation, a decision you made daily, and decisions can be unmade. She's starting to understand that now. And understanding doesn't feel empowering, it feels exposing, because it forces her to see how much she relied on you compensating, how often she assumed you'd adjust while she stayed still, how many times she let you carry the weight of keeping things moving forward. She didn't do it maliciously. She did it because it was easy, because you made it easy, because you never complained or made her feel the cost of her hesitation. But cost doesn't disappear just because it's not mentioned. It accumulates, quietly, invisibly, until one day the person carrying it decides they're done. And you decided she can feel that now. This isn't a pause, this isn't a mood, this is a conclusion you reached on your own. Without needing her input, without needing her agreement, you saw the pattern, recognized the imbalance, and chose yourself. That realization stings, not because it's cruel, because it's fair. And fairness is harder to argue with than anger. There's no villain here, no betrayal, just someone who stopped overextending, someone who respected themselves enough to step back when effort wasn't mutual. And she can't spin that into something ugly, can't reframe it as you being cold or unreasonable. All she can do is sit with the truth that you walked away because staying didn't make sense anymore. Clarity arrives late. That's how it always works. Not in the heat of the moment, not when emotions are spiking, after, when the dust has settled. when the silence has done its work, when there's nothing left to distract from what actually happened, she's there now, standing in the aftermath of something she didn't fully understand while it was unfolding, and the picture is getting clearer by the day, uncomfortably clear. She sees now that your chasing wasn't weakness, it was investment, real investment, the kind that shows up without guarantees, the kind that stays consistent without demanding proof of reciprocity, the kind most people talk about wanting but rarely recognize when it's standing in front of them. You gave that, freely, repeatedly, and she didn't protect it, didn't match it, didn't even fully acknowledge it until it stopped. That recognition doesn't arrive gently. It lands heavy, sits in the chest, refuses to be rationalized away. What makes it heavier is understanding what your stopping actually meant. It wasn't defeat. It wasn't exhaustion. It was clarity on your end. You saw the pattern before she did, recognized the imbalance before it became obvious. And instead of forcing confrontation or begging for change, you just stepped back, quietly, cleanly, without making it her problem to manage. You absorbed the realization alone, made the decision alone, and executed it without needing her validation or understanding. That level of self-possession is rare. She knows that now. Most people make their exits loud. They want acknowledgement. They want the other person to feel the weight of the loss. You didn't need any of that. You just left. And leaving without noise is harder to dismiss than leaving with drama. Drama can be blamed on emotion. Silence can't. Silence suggests something deeper, something resolved, something that doesn't need external closure, because internal closure already happened. She's realizing the weight didn't disappear when you stopped carrying it. It shifted, and she's feeling it now in ways she didn't anticipate. The uncertainty she used to offload, the doubt she used to quiet with your reassurance, the emotional labor she never knew you were absorbing. All of it lies with her fully now. There's no buffer anymore, no safety net, no one smoothing over the rough edges of her indecision. What's left is just the truth of how the dynamic actually functioned. She leaned, you held. She hesitated, you waited. She tested, you stayed. Until you didn't, and the ending doesn't feel cruel because it wasn't. It was accurate, a reflection of where things actually stood beneath the surface. You didn't create that imbalance, you just stopped compensating for it. There's no magic phrase that fixes this, no apology that restores what existed. The dynamic ended the moment you chose alignment over accommodation. Everything after that was just her understanding catching up. And now that it has, she's left with something she can't undo. The knowledge that something solid was within reach, and she let it slip while assuming it would wait forever. By the time she fully understands, you're already gone. Not physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically. You've relocated yourself to a place she can't reach anymore. Not because you blocked her, because you stopped waiting, stopped hoping, stopped organizing your emotional world around whether she'd finally show up. That's the part people don't talk about. Real moving on isn't loud, it's quiet, it's internal. It happens before anyone else notices, and by the time they do, it's already complete. You're not refreshing your phone anymore, not analyzing her stories, not wondering if today's the day she reaches out. That chapter closed on your side long before she even realized it was ending. You processed what needed processing, felt what needed feeling, and then you redirected, fully, without announcement, without performance, without needing her to witness your evolution. That's what real closure looks like. It doesn't require the other person's participation. It just requires your own decision to stop abandoning yourself for someone who didn't choose you. Meanwhile, she's left holding something she can't quite name. Not regret in the dramatic sense, recognition. Slow, undeniable understanding that something meaningful was right there. Consistent, reliable, rare, and she didn't match it, didn't prioritize it, didn't protect it when protecting it would have mattered. She delayed, assumed, took her time like time was infinite, not because you gave her a deadline, because you gave yourself one. What stays with her isn't the memory of your words, it's the memory of your presence, how it felt to be chosen consistently, how it felt to have someone show up without being chased, how it felt to be the center of someone's effort without earning it daily. That feeling doesn't replicate easily. She'll notice its absence in future connections, in the gaps where someone else's attention feels conditional, in the moments where consistency is missing, and she suddenly remembers what it felt like when it wasn't. You didn't leave bitterness behind. That's the part that echoes longest. No harsh words to replay. No cruelty to justify distance. Just silence, clean, neutral, final. And finality without hostility is harder to shake than finality with it. Because there's nothing to be angry about, nothing to blame, just a man who recognized his worth and refused to keep discounting it for someone who wasn't buying. That's the quiet power of walking away without noise. It doesn't manipulate, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform, it just demonstrates, shows without telling, proves without arguing. You didn't try to convince her you were valuable. You showed her by leaving when staying stopped making sense. And that demonstration lingers longer than any speech ever could. She'll carry this. Not as a wound, as a lesson. The silent understanding that presence isn't promised, that consistency isn't owed, that someone can love you and still leave where love isn't enough to bridge the gap. You were that someone, and your absence taught her what your presence never could. You didn't disappear to be chased, you disappeared to find peace. You didn't go silent to punish you when silent, to protect your energy. You didn't stop showing up because you stopped caring, you stopped showing up because you stopped noticing. You didn't withdraw for attention, you withdrew to heal your standards. You didn't leave a gap she just never thought you would. You weren't proving a point, you were reclaiming your center. You didn't end it with noise, you ended it with clarity. You didn't want recognition, you wanted truth. You didn't ask her to understand, you allowed her to feel it in your absence. You didn't beg for effort, you became the standard for it. She won't remember the last thing you said, she'll remember you stopped saying anything at all. She won't miss what you did. She'll miss who she was when you were doing it. You didn't press pause, you pressed exit. You didn't disappear from her life, you returned to your own. You didn't walk away to be followed, you walked away because you were done walking in circles.